At 7:12 in the morning, they discovered a newborn baby. By sunset, that same baby was dead. The crew thought they had discovered the strangest planet in the galaxy. They were wrong, because before the night was over, the same thing began happening to them. Year 2189, Earth was no longer the world humanity remembered. Oceans were rising, resources were disappearing, and scientists had begun searching for a new home. That was the purpose of Mission Horizon. 6 astronauts were sent aboard the deep space vessel Odyssey, carrying enough equipment to search for a planet where humans could potentially begin again. Their destination was a world designated Kepler 442c. From millions of kilometers away, the planet looked almost perfect. Blue atmosphere, massive oceans, green land masses, and temperatures surprisingly close to Earth's. For the crew, this wasn't just another scientific mission. It could be the discovery that saved humanity. After weeks of traveling through deep space, the Odyssey finally entered the planet's system. Then, bang! The entire spacecraft violently shook. Warning lights flashed across the cockpit. Impact detected. The pilot tried to stabilize the ship, but the navigation system had already failed. Something had struck the Odyssey, something the sensors hadn't detected. Oxygen pressure began dropping. One engine shut down, then another. The ship was falling directly toward the planet. The crew had only one choice: emergency landing. The Odyssey entered the atmosphere surrounded by flames. For several terrifying minutes, nobody knew if they would survive. Then, crash! The ship slammed into the surface. Silence. Hours later, the crew finally opened the emergency hatch. One astronaut stepped outside, then stopped. In front of him was something they hadn't expected: grass. Real grass. A river flowed through a nearby valley. Trees moved gently in the wind. Bird-like creatures flew across a bright blue sky. For the first time in years, the crew saw a world that looked almost exactly like Earth. They began collecting samples, checking the atmosphere, testing the soil. Everything seemed strangely familiar. Then one astronaut noticed something moving near the river. A woman was running toward them. She was carrying something in her arms. The crew raised their weapons. But then they realized it wasn't an attack, it was a baby. The woman placed the newborn on the ground. The crew stared at it. According to their instruments, the baby was only minutes old, but something was wrong. The baby was growing, not slowly, rapidly. Within minutes, it began moving its arms, then its legs. Its body changed right before their eyes. One astronaut whispered, "That's impossible." The baby's face began changing, its muscles developed, its hair grew, and within what seemed like hours, the newborn had become a young child. The crew couldn't understand what they were witnessing. Then their instruments detected something even stranger. The planet's biological processes were moving at an incredible rate, but their clocks were normal, or at least they thought they were. Commander Elias looked at his wrist computer. Only a few hours had passed since landing. Then he looked back at the child. The child was now walking. By 1600, it looked like a teenager. And as the sun began moving toward the horizon, the impossible happened. The teenager's face started changing again. Wrinkles appeared, hair turned gray, the body became weaker. The crew stood frozen. Nobody spoke. Then the teenager looked directly at them and whispered, "You need to leave." Commander Elias stepped forward. "Why?" The old man looked at the sky and said, "Because you're already changing." Everyone immediately checked their bodies. At first, nothing seemed different. Then Maya noticed something on her hand, a small wrinkle. She rubbed it. It didn't disappear. Another astronaut checked his reflection in the helmet visor. There were gray hairs near his temple. "That's not possible." The medical scanner began screaming. Cellular aging detected. Everyone went silent. The crew had been on the planet for less than a day, but their bodies were aging fast. Commander Elias demanded a full analysis. The computer processed the data, then displayed a message that made everyone freeze. "Biological time rate unknown." And beneath it, another warning appeared. "Acceleration detected." The crew finally understood. They hadn't landed on a dead alien world. They had landed on a planet where time itself behaved differently. And whatever had caused it was now happening inside their bodies. Commander Elias immediately ordered everyone back to the Odyssey. But when they reached the ship, another problem appeared. The ship's internal clock showed 1842. The planet's sunset was happening normally. Yet the medical scanners were telling a completely different story. Their cells were aging hundreds of times faster than they should. Maya looked toward the horizon. A tiny plant that had been barely visible in the morning was now a massive tree. Its entire life cycle had happened in just a few hours. Then the crew noticed something terrifying. The sky itself was changing. The stars were appearing one after another, not because night was coming, but because the planet's day-night cycle was accelerating. They rushed into the ship and began analyzing the data. The scientists discovered something impossible. The planet wasn't simply rotating faster. Its entire environment appeared to experience time at a completely different rate compared with the space around it. Their instruments suggested that the closer they were to the planet's surface, the stronger the effect became. And then they found the source. Deep beneath the planet was an enormous gravitational anomaly. Something was bending space-time around the planet. The crew didn't know what it was. But one thing became clear. The closer they stayed to the planet, the faster their biological clocks would run. Commander Elias looked at the crew. They didn't have days. They might not even have hours. They had to repair the Odyssey now. The impact had destroyed one of the ship's primary navigation systems. Without it, they couldn't leave the planet safely. The replacement component was stored inside the damaged section of the ship. The crew began working. Every second mattered. Maya suddenly stopped. She looked at her hands. The wrinkles had become more visible. Her hair was turning gray. Another crew member checked his heartbeat. It was dangerously fast. "Commander," his voice trembled. "We're running out of time." Elias looked at the ship's clock. Only 23 minutes had passed. But biologically, they had already aged far more than that. Finally, the navigation system came back online. The Odyssey's engines started. The entire ship shook. But there was one final problem. They couldn't launch from the surface. The gravitational anomaly was interfering with the engines. The ship needed to climb beyond a certain altitude before the time distortion became weaker. Elias gave the command, "Launch." The Odyssey rose from the ground. The planet below seemed to change rapidly. Forests grew, died, and grew again. Rivers changed their paths. Clouds raced across the atmosphere. The entire world looked like a time-lapse video. Then suddenly, the distortion disappeared. The ship crossed the boundary. Everything became normal. The crew looked at one another. For the first time, their bodies stopped changing. They had escaped. Nobody spoke for several minutes. Then the navigation computer began calculating their return route. Maya looked at the screen and froze. "Commander?" Elias turned. "What?" She pointed toward the date. "Earth, year 2147. Nobody understood. They had left Earth in 2189. The computer was showing a date from the past. Elias ordered the system to run the calculation again. Same result. The planet hadn't only changed their biological time. Somehow, their journey had caused them to return to a completely different point in Earth's timeline. Or perhaps the planet hadn't sent them into Earth's past at all. Perhaps they'd entered a completely different version of reality. Then the radar detected something ahead. A planet, blue, white clouds, oceans, continents, Earth. The crew stared at it in disbelief. They had finally returned home. But as the Odyssey moved closer, Maya noticed something strange. The continents didn't look exactly right. The moon was slightly different. And where the Earth's largest cities should have been, there were enormous glowing structures. Elias whispered, "That's not our Earth." The crew slowly realized the truth. They hadn't simply escaped a planet where time moved differently. They may have escaped into another reality. The camera slowly pulls away from the spaceship. Earth fills the screen. Then, what happened to Earth? Could this story continue? If you want part 2, let us know.